again. Finishing up the series on the family, and we've talked a lot about, well, over the past few weeks, we've talked about the husband and whose job is to take the responsibility. And we said that whether the family succeeds or fails, it's because of what the man, because God has placed him in a leadership role. And then mom is to come alongside and help. And we said that by submitting to the father's role, it gives him an opportunity to be the leader that God called him to be. And then as for the children, their job is to honor and to be obedient to mom and dad, because God's way is the best way. And then I'm not naive. I know that every family is not a traditional family. I know that in today's world we have all kinds of families from every end of the spectrum. Of course, there are traditional families, and then we have single parent households. I know that, and that can be a tough road to hoe, as my dad would say, because being a single parent, all the responsibility falls on you, and that's tough. So they need our prayers. There are blended families, and that can be tough. When you have a blended family, bringing two families together can be a challenge. You got families that was like mine, a whole bunch of kids, 11 of us. And then you have families where there are no children. You have families where people have chosen to adopt. And you have families where people chose to give up for adoption. And the list goes on. The list goes on and on and on. And we need all of those families. It's okay to be all of those families. And then when it comes to the church, the fundamental or the foundation of the church is the family. So it doesn't make a difference if it's a traditional family, if it's a blended family, if it's a single parent household, if it's whatever kind of family. People come to church for a whole lot of different reasons. There was a time that I went to church for the entertainment value. The church that I grew up in out in the country church was sometimes very funny. And on Sunday mornings I would sleep, but when we would have things like revivals and pastor's appreciation, I stayed awake because you just never knew what you were going to get. And one of the favorite stories that I tell, that there was a couple in the community who appreciated Jack Daniels a little too much. And it seemed like every time that they were in an appreciative mood, we were having a night service and they showed up at church appreciating Jack Daniels. And they would come down the aisle dancing and singing and it was always fun. So I was always kind of entertained. People come to church because that's what we've always done. People come to church because that's my social setting, and people come to church because of a whole lot of different reasons, and all those things are okay. They want to have fun as kids, and they want the entertainment value. And all these different families from all these different backgrounds coming together. But the only problem is that sometimes it becomes a tradition for families to come to church, and we never make the decision to really serve the Lord. Be the kind of house I grew up in, mom and dad with 11 children. The kind of house my cousin grew up in. He was from a single parent household. My brother now has a blended household. And we come and we do all the festive things around church. We come and we laugh and we talk and we hug and we sing. But as an individual and as a family, never making the decision really to serve God becomes a problem. And we see that now in our society. There's a whole lot of people, my dad used to say, they're around the church, but they're not in the church. And when we fail, when we become indecisive about making the decision to wholeheartedly serve God, we end up with the kinds of problems that this nation has now. Because if the church, the foundation of the church is the family, and the family is indecisive when it comes to really committing to serving God. In other words, it's easy for other things to become important when I haven't truly made the decision to serve the Lord. If I haven't really committed to serve God, it's easy for Sunday morning to be a time for other stuff. And it's easier for me to miss because it doesn't have the same priority as maybe something else does. I don't know what it is for you. For me, it would be fishing. It would be a lot easier for me to get up. In matter of fact, I told Tammy, I fish without fishing now. I go at night, I go out down Oklahoma River. I ain't gonna tell you my spot because you might take it from me. There's a spot where I can go, I can just hang like little trout lines. And I can put my bait out. I fish with live perch, and then me and Ron Jr. go check them in the morning. We usually have 2 or 3. And I clean them and put them in the freezer. So fishing could easily become a priority for me. And everybody's is going to be different. But when we don't make the priority, when we don't make the decision to honestly serve God, and we put other little gods in the place of big God, we end up with the kind of societies and families and all the chaos that we have now. Does that make sense? So it becomes very important for us to make sure that we make the decision to serve the Lord. And I always hear this all the time, that, it's ironic that if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, if you don't know biblical history, we're doomed to repeat it. And they had the same problems or the same issues that we have now, people not wholeheartedly serving God, as they did in the time of Moses. And then after Moses died, Joshua took the lead. And so in the context of making a decision to serve God, I want to look at the book of Joshua, Old Testament text, chapter 25, verses 14 and 15. And I think I got the NIV, so I'm going to read it from up here. It says, Joshua then said, he spoke to the people, the children of Israel. Now they had come out of Egypt, they had crossed the river, and they were in the land of the Amorites, actually getting ready to inhabit the promised land where God had promised them. And Joshua, who's at the end of his life now, 110 years old, so he's a ripe old age. This is what he gathered all the people, all the spiritual leaders together, all the leaders of the different tribes of Israel. And here's what he says. He said, now you have heard the Lord's words. So you must respect the Lord and serve him fully and sincerely. Throw away the false gods that your people worshipped, that happened on the other side of the Euphrates River in the land of Egypt. Now you must serve the Lord. Did we get verse 15 through, Jeff? But maybe you don't want to serve the Lord. That's fine. But you must choose for yourselves today. You must decide who you will serve. You may serve the gods that your people worship when they live on the other side of the Euphrates River, or you may serve the gods of the Amorites who live in this land. But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. Joshua becomes the example of the kind of decision that we as families and individuals have to make. It's imperative that we make the decision, regardless of what anybody else does, to serve the Lord. Doesn't matter what your family structure looks like. It doesn't matter who's the head or who's in charge or who has to take the leadership role. The most important decision that we as children of God, as families of God, have to make is the decision to sincerely serve the Lord. He must be the top priority of our life. And that's what Joshua was telling the people. Joshua was old, getting close to his death. These were his final words. And I've often said a lot of times that when you get close to your last breath, then things really become crystal clear. I watched it through my mother, I watched it through my father and other people who I know. And you relate things that are of utmost importance that you want people to understand. And that's what Joshua was saying. And as we dig into the text, Joshua was telling the people, he says, you got to choose. In the old text it says, choose you this day who you will serve. So Joshua was telling the people, you have to make a choice. It's a personal decision. Everyone involved in the family has to make a decision to personally serve the Lord. In other words, can't nobody do it for you. Now it would be easy if somebody else made the decision for me. As a matter of fact, when I was young, that decision was made for me, because my dad would tell us, if you live in this house on Sunday morning at 7:45, when your feet hit the floor and you brush your teeth and comb your hair, put your clothes on. because you're going to Sunday school. It wasn't an option. But when I got old enough to make the choice for myself, he said, son, now you're a man. I've tried to show you the right here, but now you have to choose. And the mistake that a lot of people make is we try to live on other people's religion. Man, my mama went to church. They ain't got nothing to do with you. Man, my mama wasn't praying. My daddy was this. Okay, that's great. But what about you? What decision are you going to make? What are you going to do about what you've heard? What are you going to do about the plan of salvation? What are you going to do about God's grace? What are you personally going to do? Because it's a personal decision. You can't blame nobody else for the decision that you make. I used to like that old song that we used to sing in my churches. I have decided to follow Jesus. And that was the song that I have decided. And it would say, no turning back. So you have to decide. The decision is on you. And you have to know that serving the Lord is the best decision that you can ever make. If you don't make any other decision in life, if you just let everybody else around you make decisions for you, this is one issue that is the best decision that you can ever make, is you personally decide. I don't care what mama does. I don't care what daddy, because the truth is, if we go all the way back to Abraham, whose daddy was I think it was Terah, T-E-R-A-H, something like that. Terah and their family, they worship idol gods. Abraham was the first one to come out of idol worship and to begin to serve Yahweh. And now that's why God said, you be the father of many nations, because Abraham came out of paganism and began to serve Yahweh. And now Joshua is declaring the same thing that Moses declared, the same thing that Abraham had to declare. I will serve God. So it's a personal decision. It's a decision that's got to be made right now. Some decisions you can wait on, but serving the Lord is not one of them. Some decisions are not urgent, but serving the Lord is not one of them. The truth of the matter is, I can wait to brush my teeth in the morning. You may not want to talk to me, but I don't have to brush my teeth in the morning. But the decision that we have to make right now, not now, but right now, is the decision to serve the Lord. I'm so grateful that my grandfather, my dad's father, made the decision to serve the Lord. Why? Because that has direct impact on me, my household, and my children and my grandchildren. The decision that was made 100 years ago by my grandfather to do something different than what was the protocol of the family, from what I understand, is to serve God, put my faith in Him, and trust Him, and live for God. And so, excuse me, I'm glad, because it impacts everybody around, and it has to be a decision that's made now, right now. There's no time to waste. I wrote this down here because I wanted, the Bible always talks about life being a vapor. Well, what if your vapor is dissipating and you haven't really made the decision to serve God? A whole lot of folks, the Bible makes it clear, there will be a whole lot of people that say to me in that day, Lord, Lord. And He'll say, I don't even know who you are. Why? Because we've never honestly, genuinely, individually made the decision to stop living off of mom and dad's relationship with God and make the decision for myself to live for the Lord. We need to make it right now. It's too important not to make. Indecision is a decision. If you don't ever make up your mind, then you're making a decision.
That's right.
You're saying that it's really not that important.
That's right.
It's really not a priority. I can let it ride. Well, that's fine. You can do that. But you never know. And so that's why he says you have to make a decision, and you have to make a decision not now, but right now. Because the decision that you make impacts the people around you. I talked about that. My grandfather made a decision. I like the movie, I can't think, Gladiator. And when he was standing and said, what you do today echoes in eternity. The decision that my grandfather made echoes. And he's dead. Been dead before I ever touched the earth. So at least 47 years. But the decision that he made changed my father's life. And my father's changed life changed my life. And my changed life is impacting what my children will do and what my grandchildren will do. Because what we do today echoes into eternity. I used to tell my brother-in-law, I used to say, we have an opportunity as being laborers of the gospel. We have an opportunity to change the legacy of our families. In other words, what do you want to be known for? What do you want your name to stand for? My father made the decision, my grandfather made, and it was up to me to continue to make the decision, because if you read the text later on in the tragedy of chapter 25 in Joshua is that the generation after Joshua's children was right back into paganism, and as a result they were right back in bondage again. So every generation has to make a decision that will impact future generations. If I don't make the decision to train my son, to be hard on him, to teach him how to be a man, teach him how to love the Lord, then he ain't going to be tough on his son to teach him the right things to do. And his son is going to be far from God. And Ron Jr. may not even know who God is. And as a result, what my grandfather worked to establish will be no more. Why? Because I didn't make the decision to continue. Because what I do impacts the people around me. The choices you make will impact the people around you. And Jeff and I were talking about that over lunch Friday. Is that every decision we make comes with built-in consequences. And they have consequences beyond myself. If I make a bad choice, then my family may suffer from the choices I've made. That's crazy. Now you think what you do only impacts you. No, not so. The decisions we make impact everybody around us. So I thank God for Big Johnny. That's what my dad called my grandfather, Big Johnny. That he made a choice to not follow idol gods, but made the choice to serve the Lord. So we have to make a personal decision. We've got to make it now, because the decision that we make will impact the people's lives around you. And just saying it is not enough. There must be some actions behind the decisions that you make. Just saying, yep, I'm going to be like Joshua. Me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. No, that's not enough. There has to be some actions behind what you say. My old coach used to say, what you do is speaking so loudly I can't hear what you're saying. Hey, I want y'all to do me a favor. Everybody look at me. Everybody look at me. Everybody do like this. I need 100%. Come on, Jonathan. Everybody do like this. Now, make a circle with your hand, with your right hand, and take that and put it right there on your chin. Now, did you ever hear it? I said put it right there. Now, 99.7% of people did just like this. Put it right there on your chin. It's on your cheek. Why? Because people don't do what you say. They do what you do.
That's right.
So if I tell Ron Jr., me in this house, boy, we're going to get up and we're going to go to church and we're going to serve the Lord every Sunday. But every Sunday I'm loading my truck with my fishing tackle. What's he going to teach his son? It's okay to not do what you say. Because what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And when we were watching the example of people who have gone before us, and they say, man, put your hand on your chin, you'll think this is your chin. So can you see how easily it can be led off track by following the example of other people?
Yes.
That's why Joshua said, today, you've got to choose who you're going to serve. Are you going to do what your ancestors did before you served the Lord? And serve idol gods made of wood and stone that mean absolutely nothing? I remember when Allison was a little baby, we used to drive by this temple, and she would say, you know what, Mom, Dad, I don't think I want a God that I can knock over. And she was a little bitty kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Made a lot of sense. I don't want no God that I built. Because when I get tired of him, I can build me a new God. And so many people today who are indecisive and haven't taken action, we put up other gods.
Wow.
And that one don't work, well, I got to get me another God. So it becomes very important that we make the decision and put some actions behind our decision, because what I do not only impacts me and my family, but it will impact you. My mother-in-law is famous for this. She'll say stuff to me like, and you supposed to be a preacher. And I'll turn around and say to her, and you supposed to be a Christian. Yeah. In other words, people are watching what you do.
That's right.
I know there are some things that I cannot and will not do. Why? Because of the position that God has me in. That's another sermon for another day. But Joshua told the people, he says, you got to choose today, not Monday, but right now at 10:40 on, May the 27th, 2018, as we stand here, everybody individually and then collectively as a family and then as a church family, we have to make the decision, who are we going to serve? When he makes the reference to the false gods or the gods that my ancestors served, he's talking about, am I going to serve tradition? I just do what we did because that's what we did? Am I going to do what the contemporary people are doing today and just say that any and everything is okay? Or am I going to make the decision to serve the Lord? And then Joshua classically says, me and my house, we've already made the decision. We're going to serve the Lord. Because it's an impact, or it's a decision that will impact the people who are around you. Every decision has built-in consequences. We talked about that a little bit. So make sure you choose to serve the Lord and the Lord only, because in the next part of the text in chapter 25, it tells us that God is a jealous God. God is a jealous God. In other words, he's not like Stevie Wonder. You know, Stevie Wonder used to sing a song, here's to you, my part-time lover. Wasn't that Stevie Wonder? That's not God's story. He don't want no part-time lover. He says, I want you to serve me and serve me with your whole heart. I don't want you only on Sundays for an hour.
Yes.
And when people fail to make a decision to serve him, that's the kind of actions that we give an hour on Sundays. But the rest of the time, Lord, you're just my part-time lover. Thank you for blessing me. I'll see you next Sunday. Because our decisions have consequences. God is a jealous God. He wants you all to himself. God has fixed it so that when we serve him, he takes care of you. There's a scripture in John chapter 12, 26 says, if we serve God through serving Jesus, God will honor you. That simply means that God will take care of you. And you know that when you honor something and when you cherish something, you take care of it. When you value something, you take care of it. God values you. So the things that you value, you take care of. I like to hunt, and you know that. I don't let Ron Jr. shoot my good bow. He can shoot my old one, but that good one, I watches him when he shoots it, because I don't want to let it mess up. He'd be like, hey, Pops, let me practice driving your truck. Shoot, you better talk to your mama. You're not driving. Because the things that we value, we take care of. And so God values you when you serve him. And so that means he'll take care of you.
Yes, he will.
Is there anybody in here that knows that God will take care of you?
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Because that's the kind of God he is. But probably the best part about serving the Lord is when this life comes to a close, when we're done, as Deacon Burton said, when my tongue cleaves to the roof of my mouth and my bed becomes my cooling board, God will say to you, well done, my good and faithful servant. I remember one of the proudest moments as a child. We were in the back room getting ready to get married, me and Tammy. My dad was there. He's my best man. My best friend from college, Mike Rose. One of the dudes that was a big reason why we were able to stand strong as a Christian, and Chris Minarelli. You'll hear from both of those guys coming soon, Mike and Chris. And then my best friend from high school, Marshawn, was sitting there. And then Tammy's brother, Jason, was on the end. And my dad looks at me and says, son, I'm proud of the man that you've become. That was one of the most satisfying moments, is to hear my father say, who I mimic, by the way, to hear him say, son, I'm proud of you. But that pales in comparison to the satisfaction that we'll have when we finally leave this side and go home and hear God say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Yes. You've been faithful over a few things. Let me make you ruler over many. Yes. There is no more greater reward I'm looking forward to than to hear God say, all your toil was worth it. All your fighting through disappointments was worth it, because I'm proud of you, son. You've done a good job. So if nothing else, if impacting the people around you don't matter, that's fine. If having to deal with the consequences of your own choices don't matter, let your motivating factor for making a decision today before you leave this church to serve the Lord with your whole heart, let your motivating factor be, one day I've got to stand before God and He's going to say one or two things. Well done, my good and faithful servant. I depart from me, you workers of iniquity. That's the only choices you got. And as real as that is, a lot of people don't want to believe it. Well, I'm sorry. That's just the truth. Serving God is always the best choice. Period. Serving God. Old song, serving the Lord will pay off after a while. Well, my dad said it's paying off right now. Serving God is always the best choice. If you've never made the choice to serve Him, if you've never made the choice to give your whole heart to Him and let Him use your life, don't leave Soul Church today without making the choice to serve God as an individual and as a family. Don't make the mistake of thinking this deal can wait, because serving the Lord is the best choice you'll ever make. Here's what we can do as a family, since we're wrapping up this family series. Here's a simple step that if we do it, it will revolutionize our families. It will change us. And I'm going to be honest, this is something that I don't do as often as I should. But for this whole week, starting tonight, as a family, come together. Whoever lives in your house, come together. Pick one thing to pray for. One thing that you want to see God do in your family. Just one, not 12. As a family, decide, okay, we're going to pray that God would do this. And every night, pray about it. There's an old story about this Indian tribe that wanted it to rain. And they would go out, they would start their music, Jonathan, and they would start dancing. And they'd get tired, and they'd quit. Say, man, what happened? They heard about this other Indian tribe about 200 miles away. They said, every time that they dance, JD, it rains. We got to figure out what they're doing. So the chief and everybody, they packed up their horses and they made this 200-mile ride. And when they got there, man, it was raining. And they got off their horse, they went to the chief, they said, man, what do you do that every time you dance, it rains? He said, I'm going to tell you the secret. Now, don't tell nobody I told you this, because it's going to spoil it for everybody. He said, most people, when they start dancing, they dance until they get tired. But when we dance, we don't quit till it rains. So when you pick one thing to pray for, and you start praying as a family, are you going to pray till it rains? Here's what that'll do. If you pray, and I know that God answers prayers, if you pray collectively as a family that's serving God wholeheartedly, He'll answer your prayer and it will change everybody in the house. Because what an impact it will have on mom and dad and children and uncles and aunts or whoever's in that home to see God answer prayer. If anybody sitting here has ever seen God answer prayer, your life is different.
Yeah.
You're not the same. You got a little bit more conviction. You can stand a little taller. You can proclaim a little louder the goodness of the Lord. Why? Because you know that God will stand good on His promise. And He said, if you call to me, I'll answer. So as a family that's fully engaged in serving God, I challenge you, pick one thing and pray. Every night or every morning, whatever you choose, on the phone, on three-way, FaceTime. It's so easy now because we got so much technology. We can text and say, everybody pray now. You ain't even got to be in the same location. We can be here and you can be in California. And God will honor that. And it will be a simple act to show that me and my house are serving the Lord. And if we did that as a church, that'd be awesome. So my challenge is one thing and pray for it. And don't quit till it rains. One of my favorite scriptures talks about how we overcome by the word of our testimony. That'll give you a testimony that you can share with somebody. Amen. So the most important thing that we have to understand is serving the Lord is the most important decision you'll ever make. Make it today. Let's pray. Father, we thank you that you are a good God.